I know this, he will be missed. When I saw him the other day in the hotel, in the hospital, I was trying to explain to him how important it was to my wife Lola and I. We were like 30 at the time. We were still struggling to get ahead in the television business. We didn't have a lot of money to spend, and Shel would invite us to come free. He would comp us with rooms and put us on the various programs and treated us like such royalty and made us feel so welcome. And I myself am a fan of comics. I'm a fan of comics. I used to read them when they were like horse blankets, huge things, comic strips in the weekly newspapers, and that was my introduction to comic book art, and then later through Disney to things like Pinocchio and Snow White, and the uses of art in storytelling. And I still have ambition to do a program of animated or semi-animated films called The Gulfs of Space. I did one with Ray Bradbury called Icarus Montgolfier Right. It was nominated for an Academy Award. Joseph Maniani, the illustrator, artist, teacher, did all of the artwork. First he made 3,000 sketches. We spread them out on the floor and walked among them because we were going to try and turn the 3,000 sketches into 300 paintings. So we picked out the ones we wanted reproduced in cell size, and over a 2-year period, Joseph Maniani painted these pieces of artwork. And as I was involved in this with Ray Bradbury, it became very, very clear to me that there's an art form out there waiting that is not like cartoons. It's stories told with paintings. And anyway, Shel was a very large influence in all of that.
And again, William, do you remember the last time you came to visit Shel here?
Well, I've been here many, many, many times. I think the last time was just to hang out and watch Busby Berkeley movies.
The television was always on, that's right.
Yeah, before that, he kind of he took people under his wing. Like he took me to Jack Kirby's house, took me to go meet Bern Hogarth, and which is really cool. And yeah, so I was here actually doing lining off putting the lines on the paper for his lettering for Steve Canyon in exchange for some lettering he was doing for me for my David Bowie comic strip I was doing at the time.
Well, it also occurs to me that in the early years of the convention, Richard Alf and Mike Towery are showcasing and saving some of the early posters and things that were made. Shel did a lot of that art direction and design because he was trained in that in Detroit, and he did them all right here. So this is a studio as well as a residence for him. All of this work was done out of this humble dwelling here in Ocean Beach, which is another facet in the jewel of Ocean Beach and its own history around here in this local area. There's bumper stickers for Ocean Beach. You see all kinds of places. The seagull over the OB logo. And another jet.
Plus, everywhere you looked around there, you'd see like an original Chester Gould Dick Tracy, or you'd see an original Milton Caniff, Steve Canyon, or Terry and the Pirates, and it's just really great.
All those Steve Canyon strips that he lettered must have come through this address. And the post office is a couple of blocks over up in this. Ocean Beach is a very localized neighborhood. Not many major streets, small streets, kind of tightly packed, and the beach is right behind us. So in the summertime, most any day of the week, from about 10 o'clock on, this place is jammed with cars and crowded with people. And Shel lived among all these people for, all over 30 years that we can establish.
Now we're off to the post office to show where the lettering went through.
Yeah, in 2 minutes, and then talk about what we did, show the badges, and we'll be done.
Oh, so we went to the El Cortez and had dinner?
Display those on the camera.
Okay, well, I'll hold it up.
Yeah, we created artwork,
Wait.
or
One, and then you talk about what we did at the Cortez. So ready?
Okay.
1, 2, 3, Shel Dorf.
event for me because Tarzan was one of my culture heroes as a child, and to be in the same room and talking with Tarzan,
Didn't he do the yell?
Yeah,
Weissmuller did the famous Tarzan
he would
yell?
do the Tarzan yell.
Oh,
yeah,
but
yeah,
he
all
did it
that.
right.
Only he did it right.
And
yeah.
everybody else they dub that in for, don't they?
Yeah.
There goes the magic of Hollywood.
How'd you guys enjoy the Cortez yesterday?
Well, we were just saying that we were grateful to be able to go inside because for the last 10 or so years you go drive by the place We described some of the changes to it architecturally because they've modified it, remodeled it, but this core building that's shown on the badge here still remains. There was an elevator that ran from top to bottom in front of the hotel with a tremendous view of the city, which is now blocked by the newly constructed skyscrapers. But that elevator, my father told me, was a piston-driven elevator, which meant it went up and down on a rod that went 13 stories into the ground, and that may still be there. But it was one of the few elevators of its kind in the world, and it was quite a landmark for San Diego and for our...
Can George explain the significance of the official Shel Dorf fan club entourage in addition to the George Clayton Johnson
Okay.
entourage which accompanies
What is the significance of our visit this weekend? Why are we here?
To remember Shel Dorf. Shel is, to all intents and purposes, dying. We've all sort of accepted that there's no recovery from the condition that he's in. The fact that he's still lucid and can understand people and can respond in a very hesitant ways is very, very important.
We were able to visit him in pairs yesterday.
Yeah, and we want, at least I want, to keep his memory alive, because Shel Dorf, it was an institution, a kind of a force of nature. He was, once he set up his mind to accomplish something, he got it done, and he inspired all of us to care for the comics. And I think, see, the comics, for me, taught me how to read. I'm a self-educated guy, and I learned to read through the use of comic books and things like that when I was a child.
They certainly helped me also. I will just say on the committee, as I was on the committee from 75 to the early 80s, Shel Dorf was like the conscience of the committee, in that he remembered if a guest was coming, somebody else who would likewise need to be invited, or make certain accommodations for certain guests. Like Ray Bradbury, who wouldn't drive, he'd get a train ticket or
And
whatever.
then he'd escort that prominent person throughout the entire convention, introducing him to various celebrity folks. It was always a...
And he trained the other volunteers by his example on how to be that kind of a host,
Yes.
and how to look out for the interests
Now,
of...
When was the first time that you became a committee member? You were, what, 17 something?
I came to 1972 convention. My father saw the sign in a downtown bookstore and brought me and turned me loose there for the weekend.
Yeah.
I got involved in probably 74 or 75 when I was in high school.
Yeah.
On Sunday afternoons, we had our committee meetings.
Yeah.
And my mother would drive me to the committee meeting.
Yeah.
And give up her football game to get me down there. And once a month, we'd meet.
Much of his workforce consisted of young people like you, didn't
He
it?
trusted young people, and he invited them to come forward and gave them an opportunity to participate. And that was a unique thing about Shel.
And most of them are still in the comics world.
Or involved in peripherally with the convention, yes. Reading. Right now, I'm teaching at Barstow High School, and I'm mentoring a comic book manga club.
Uh-huh.
So it always evolves.
the other Shel Dorf
Let's go.
official restaurant and do this again.
And now we're going to go find where he ate.
On our way to Perry's.
We're on our way to a restaurant called Perry's, about 3-4 miles due east of here, and we'll wrap this up. Thank you.
We're trying to stimulate ourselves back into the feelings that we had in those early days when Shel was our leader.